Alright, folks, welcome back. It is day 192. 欢迎大家回来。今天是第192天，或两天？No，2天。Alright. I have to double check on that. Let's see here. Excuse my weakened voice. I think if I keep on talking, it's okay. However, the moment I stop talking, like grit sandpaper right now, or hitting the midnight oil, if you will. Let's get into our recall today. We're wrapping up Unit 10. Wrapping up Unit 10 here. This usually goes fairly quickly when it comes to the Chinese portion. Things kind of flow off the pen. Alright. Unit 10. Business. Business. Oh, pardon me. Okay. So we have 公司. Honorifics. Oh, wait. I feel like I forgot something from yesterday. We'll find them out later. Gui. Right, Gui is being used as an honorific. Gui. Mian Gui. No need for formalities. Right. Xing. Gui Xing. Honorific name. Oh, I remember now. Insurance. 保险. Hole. Right. Hole. 投资. Investment. 投资和合作保持Let's keep contact. Contact is sure. Something no, something she. 好关跟 I don't remember. I know what the character is because of Guan. Guan is my mnemonic, but I don't. Yeah, I don't remember. It might come to me. And see. Oh, 联系，联系，联系，分，分，分，分，yeah，分，分 something，分，方线，方线，方线，方，方钱，方钱，or 方钱，方钱。I think 方钱，方钱，方钱。I'm a little torn between 钱 and 钱。I think it's 钱，方钱。Chuan? No. Yeah, Chuan. Chuan. I think. Chuan. Counsel. Consultation. 资 资 something. 资文 资 no. This one I'm not sure. But I know it reminds me of 简 资简 资文 or something close. Like this. What does that look like? This is something. 简 资简 consultation, then 律师 是 okay. Then we have the other stuff. 八乡市八乡市没事没事有事有事眼中眼中 眼中 Oh, that could definitely be written better. 眼中偷偷包包警 Jing is really tight. Ugh, save me from this character. Bao Jing. 警察 警察 Oh wait, no, that's fine. EY 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 受伤受伤伤护 right 护 Oh 救命救命救命 Starting to cough. My bad. 救命救护救护车辛苦辛苦 Ah! Oh my gosh, Duolingo, please. Okay. 辛苦辛苦愉快 Or it might be you quiet. Oh, I didn't check yesterday. Sorry for the ASMR. Yeah, I think that's it. That's our flow, right? What was Unit 9? Unit 9 was business documents, things. So this one was fairly short too. 广告广告广告广告广告项目 Write this again. 广告广告项目 木回复回复，Son of a bee sting？ 哦，尽快，尽快，尽快报告，报告，回告，回报，回告，回报，回告，费用，费用，费用，whoops，基本，基本预算，预算，预算，what the heck was yes，算。Oh, agreement and contract. Agreement. So, 学 something. 协议，协议，合同，写完，different 写完，签名，签名，修句，收据，报报销，报销。Okay. All right. So I have some problems here. I'm not sure what this is. Not sure about this and this. Oh, and I guess consultation insurance was like, oh, 想, right? And it's this 想. Okay, let's double check quickly. Oh, I forgot what this. Oh no, I got that. 练习. Where are you? 分享 OK
风险
风险 Oh man 险那想险风险 It's a little off. Oh, I totally forgot to write跟谢跟谢跟感谢感谢感谢
感谢
I forgot to write 感谢 That's okay. Yeah. 感谢 was it this one too? 愉快 Okay, it's 愉 as opposed to 愉快 Okay, gotta stick with the 愉快 Okay, it's not bad. We're fine. Yeah, we're not gonna do the Hanzi today.
打排球是我最喜欢的运动。
Work through this. 打排球是我最喜欢的运动。排球。
我的朋友会打网球，也会打排球。我
的朋友
的朋友会打
排球，
排球也会打网球。我的朋友会打网球，也会打排球。
Thank you。
打排球，打网球。
你爱什么花？
你爱什么花 ？OK。Oops。
他们家的附近有很多漂亮的花。
对，他们家的附近有很多漂亮的花。
小心过马路。
小心过马路。对。
为什么你一直在笑？
为什么你一直在笑？小心过马路。
马路。妈妈很喜欢骑马。
妈妈很喜欢骑马。很喜欢骑
他们每星期3骑3个小时的马。他们每 每星期三
星期三
都
骑
3
个小时
的
马。
马。都
今天我们有比赛，好在没有下雨。
今天我们有比赛，好在没有下雨。比赛快要开始了。
比赛
快要开始了。
开了。
音乐声音小一点儿，不会影响邻居。
不会影响邻居。音乐 volume 音乐声音小一点。不会影响邻居。right 可怕邻居。忘记语言零食
行李
行李 whoops I keep thinking snacks. Oh no. Why do you keep laughing? Because I keep screwing up.
为什么？
为什么
你一直
一直笑？
在
你在一直笑？
笑。
Wait. It has to be before, right?
妈妈很喜欢骑马。你
为什么你
一直
在笑 ？The other way around. Frequency. Okay.
往后跑。
往后跑。往后跑。别看。别往后看。
他们为你安排了这个表演。
他们为你安排了这个表演。表演。
他会帮你安排。
他会帮你安排。
他会帮你
安排。
你跟家人一般什么时候见面？
你跟家人一般什么时候见面？
周末你一般喜欢做什么？
周末你一般喜欢做什么？
明天晚上我想去游泳。
明天晚上我想去游泳。 明天晚上。哦，对，
他
游泳游的很快，跑步跑的啊跑很的 no 呀、跑的很慢。哦，他游泳
游泳
游泳游的
游的
有的游泳有的
得
，oops，
得
哦那
得
得，嗯，很
很快
快，跑步
跑步跑
跑
得
的很慢，
很慢
用信用卡买东西很方便。
用信用卡啊买东西很方便，嗯，to do shopping。
我和我的妹妹每天玩乒乓球。
我和我的妹妹每天打乒乓球，每天。
我下午会在学校练习打乒乓球。我
下午
在
在
钱包学校。
sorry it momentarily said 我in the afternoon I am in a wallet 我下午在学校会练习
信心
对
练习
打乒乓球。Son of a bee sting 我下午会在way goes there okay
从这儿去那儿不方便。
从这儿去哪儿从这儿去那儿不方便。They planned this performance.
他们
他们为你安排了这个表演。
我下午会在学校练习打乒乓球。
我下午会
在学校
练
习打乒乓球。
Okay. It's fine.
一个医生应该有信心。
一个医生应该有信心。OK。
加油，你要有信心。
加油，你要有信心。加油，你要有信心。
他有时候一个人去旅游。
他有时候一个人去旅游旅游。 我不会说中文。我不会说中文。好在我的朋友可以。OK。他有时候
一个人
去旅游。
我们都不喜欢他，好在他没有来。
我们都不喜欢他，好在他没有来。none none of us like him. Womp womp. Luckily he didn't come. Feels bad, man.
往左去。
往左去。What the? I don't need sign.
请上15楼来。
请上15楼来。楼来。15楼来。All by ourselves. 我们可以上来。我们可以自己上来。我们可以
自己
上
上来。
Or is it the other way around? Oh, that's fine.
我的妹妹喜欢骑马。
我的妹妹喜欢骑马。
骑马是他最爱的运动。
骑马是他最爱的运动。骑马是他最爱的运动。This is the second time I come to China. 这是你第一次，第二次来中国吗？来中国吗？这是你
第二次
来中国吗？
上一次的足球比赛，他们是第一。
OK。
上一次
的赛，足球比赛。足球比赛，
他们
是第一。Alright. Right on track. Who? Back to our 9. Our current unit. 9. 翻头绿剪尺前树绿
我们要保持办公室干净。
我们要保持我们要 我们要保持保持办公室干净。我们要保持办公室干净。
我们要保持办公室干净。
这个项目的风险有什么？no， 这个项目有什么风险？
这个项
目有什么风险？
版权的问题你要问律师。
版权的问题，OK， 权算
权，
版权的问题，你要问律师。保险公司。Oh, it's the other bow. I choose the wrong one. It's 保险 not 保险。I made a mistake. Okay, that's
保险公司。
Yeah, it's 保险 not 保险。保险
保险公司。
So that's my bad.
他
在保险公司工作。
感谢大家对我的帮助。
感谢大家对我的帮助。Oh, I didn't figure out what this was.
咨询。
Oh my gosh, 询。Okay, 咨询费用是多少？咨询
警察的合同费用。
咨询的费用是多少？
免贵，我姓王。
免贵，我姓王。The closest thing I can think about 免贵 is when the once in a blue moon someone addressed me as Dr. something, and I'm like, no, it's just last name, right? No need for honorifics or no need for titles. What do you want to invest in?你想 invest 投资什么？
投资
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 啊，那投资
什么
什么？
请问您贵姓？
请问您贵姓？We will contact you。
你
我们
会
会跟你，我们会
跟
跟
你
你练习
联系
啊，wrong tone，联系，on the sea，
救命！我受伤了。
救命！我受伤了，救命！
救命！
救命！我受伤
了。
这是一个很严重的问题。
这是一个很严重的问题。
警
茶
匙
心
盐
偷鱼 what wait oh 一块
鱼偷
哦
井咸
盐茶
心
我要试我今天要试今天晚上
今天晚上有事
我今天晚上有事茶你要没有你要没有要没有有没有你有没有你有没有受伤受伤你有没有受伤
你有没有
你有没有
受
伤
伤
我们喜欢合作well together 喜欢我们合作愉快
希望
我们
合作愉快。
这个意外是在什么时候发生的
OK
这个
这个意外这个意外在什么时候在什么时间
什么时候
发生的是在什么时候发生的
这个意外是在什么时候发生的
什么时间什么时候警察会来
什么时候
会到？哦，什么时候警察会到？警察什么时候？Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, that sounds a lot better. Please don't call the police. 请别报警报警，请别报警，
请别报警。
Super rapid. It's not really that. About 2 hours. I'm gonna do a few Hanzi exercises to wrap it up. Can't slack off that much.
你报警了吗？
你报警了吗？你报警？你
报警了吗？
请帮我叫救护车。
请帮我叫救护车。救护车？救护车。
请帮我叫救护车。
叫救护车。救护车。OK。请帮我叫。Wow, that's like 444. 请帮我叫救护车。
他的头受伤了。
他的头受伤了。他的头受伤了。
受伤了。
辛苦你了。
辛苦你了。辛苦你了。你了。
希望我们以后多联系。
希望我们都 something 联系。希望我们多希望我们多希望我们可以以后希望我们以后多联系。
希望我们以后多联系。
keep in touch more often in the future. 以后okay.
盐茶井
生鱼 Oh no. Oh, toe. Did I write toe incorrectly? I'm not sure. I think I'm okay. 别小心别担心。别担心。不严重。
井
商鱼险心报告月饼月景月饼月亮律师收据
请问您贵姓？
预算收据 OK I thought I might have wrote the incorrect. 收据。分享。
分享。
分享。
警察。
报告。
报告。
版权。
版权。
版权。Oh. I should be really more straight. 版权。版权。
分享。律师。
律师。
预算。
预算。
收据。
偷。What happened? 发生什么事？发生什么事了？
什么
？Oops.
发生
了什么事？
是。
Or is it the other way around? 发生
什
么事了？
什么是
It can be either. Yeah, right. Okay. An accident happened here yesterday.
昨天。
昨天，在这里。昨天，这里怎么？昨天这里发生意外了。
这里。
昨天这里，发生
意外
了。or 发生了意外。Okay, fair enough. All right, not bad, not bad. Let's put in a little bit of work. All right, a little bit of work, a wee little bit of work.
救
护车。
救护车。
救护车。
That was a renegade stroke.
救护车。
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 Danger.
救护车。
救护车。
Danger, danger, danger.
救护车。
That's so little.
联系。
联系。联系。
联系。
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 联系。联系。
联系。
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 Okay. Come on. 保持。
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 保持。保持。
保持。
保持。
保持。保持。保持。
Go, go, go.
保持。
救
护车。
救护车。
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 联系。联系。
联系。
联系。
Whoops. Hello? Why isn't that registering?
联系
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 Whoops.
联系
保持
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 Hello?
保持
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 保持保持
联系
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 系
联系
联系
诶
联系
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 联系联系
I'm a wee bit hungry. Just a wee bit hungry. 时差打车
时差
时
差打车 OK that's good. 新年
新年
Konnichiwa. Hello. Genki? Genki desu. 最近どうですか？
打车
打车
时差
一天
护驾
护照
哦
时差
时差对打车
时差时间
wrong tone 时间
时差打车
车票
时候
打车打车
马上时差
柜台以前打車私は元気です。韓国、中国を勉強していますか？はい。中国です。今日は日本語を勉強しました。6時かかります。6時にかかります。6時くらいかかります。 頑張ってください。
时差，
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 时差。
春天，
How are you interested in Japanese language learning and or Chinese? 日本語を勉強しますか？勉強しているか？
春天，
春天，
一年，
一年，
海关，
打车，下一个，next or 救护车。はいはい。日本語をでいます。おー、日本人ですか？私はアメリカ人です。私の両親は中国人です。でも、中国、汉字、oh, what is 汉字？中国をわかります。わかりません。I can't read the characters. I'm illiterate in Chinese, so that's why we're learning Chinese here. いいえ、アメリカ人です。けど、okay. I see. Well, I'm I guess I'm in the north. Ita Nishi? I don't know. Wait, Nishi is the other way. Higashi. I don't actually know how to say north. Northeast. Did I truncate it? Northeast. Oh, it's Hakuto. Yeah, it's Hakuto. I use different. Kimi Nihongo wa ii yo ne. Mada mada desu. いいえ、まだまだです。大丈夫。How long have you been studying Japanese? And how are you doing it actually? 救护车救护车下一个救护车 黄衣服，黄衣服，
黄衣服。
黄衣服。
下一个，
下一个，不愿意，不愿意，
不愿意。
哦，不愿意。OK， 不愿意。不一样，
不一样。
下一个，
下一个，
下一个。
Oh, I see. 3 years, huh? About 3 years. You surround yourself with Japanese content daily and learn words that way? Fair enough. Fair enough. That sounds like a 3-year plan for sure. Today was 今日は200 290 90 6日目です。Talking with Japanese people, podcast, music, anime. Yeah, that sounds like a post 3-year thing. How consistently, like, how consistently did you go about doing that? Just constant. You say you surround yourself. So is that a consistent thing? Do you not use English anymore? Do you not talk to people who also use English? It's kind of a important. It's kind of something that is kind of close to my, something that is unique to me, I suppose.
救护车，
救护车，
下一个，
下一个，
下一个。
火车站，
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 一个月，下一个，3个月，
3个月，
救护
车，
救护车，救护车。
It used to be consistent, but now that you're able to pick up words easy, then you speak freely in English and Japanese. Ah, okay. That sounds great. Has your English, have you ever like revisited English after your 3 years in Japanese? Did you ever like evaluated the relationship between English and Japanese as you were learning, or continue to learn, or use Japanese and English? I'm often curious about people's how they integrate their multilingual skills.
下一个，
下一个，咖啡色，
咖啡色，
咖啡色，
救护车，
最喜欢，
自転車 not just kidding. What the 车自行车yeah 自行车
自行车，
自行车下一个
下一个
不健康，
不健康
救护车，
救护车
下一个，
下一个
一点儿，
一点儿whoa uh-oh there's垃圾桶
垃圾桶，
垃圾桶 wrong slightly low 垃圾桶like did I forget English and have to study again? No, like framing English and Japanese together. Your family is English speaking, so you haven't really forgotten how to speak English, although you find yourself speaking random Japanese around them. Not quite it. More like have you ever revisited your aptitude with English speaking? oftentimes when it comes to native speakers, right? Since your family is English speaking, it's more prudent that I'm curious about. Have you ever reassessed your English aptitude as you were learning Japanese and proceeding with Japanese? I often find that actually the average level of English is quite below the level of the target language eventually, actually. Like those who spent quite a long time advancing their target language skills have a relatively not as I would say not as perceivably higher or equivalent competence in their native language, and it's often English. So in this case, I've always wondered if people who have spent multiple years surrounding themselves, especially in a target language, have they ever reevaluated their English competence? Oh yes, you have had to take an English test more than you've learned Japanese because English has so much slang compared to Japanese. That's an interesting thought. I'll take your word for it because that was my initial impression. However, I don't know enough Japanese to really appreciate how much that is. It's interesting that slang has things to do with English tests, now that I think about it. Are you talking about like your use of English slang, like online English slang, made it so that the English tests were a little bit alien, or were there actually English slang in English tests? Yeah, nowadays online, ooh, it sounds very different. It sounds very different from like the Japanese you learn, for example. Like your Japanese sources don't necessarily go out of their way to say, oh, this is what people say online and whatnot. And then English, I found that while I spend most of my English comprehension and education offline, I'm a bit old. I'm not sure how old you are. I predate the internet, and a lot of my English aptitude and writing came before the internet. So oftentimes online slang is really fun to learn and be informed about. However, largely my English is through the process of formal education. But when speaking Japanese, usually you have proper words used more often than Japanese slang. Interesting. So even in like an internet scenario, like when you're hanging out with the personal Japanese friends, in English, slang is used on a daily everywhere you go? Online? Or in person? Because colloquially, I would say, yeah, slang. But professionally, English would also not really have any occurrence of slang in general. At first, it's made hard to learn Japanese to English translating words because of this. Hard to learn Japanese to English translating. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Oh, that's a very unique situation. That tells me that you're probably a lot younger than I am. Yeah, we're probably belonging to two generational. I found that speaking proper English, or quote unquote, you're 20, okay. Speaking proper English made it easier to translate translate Japanese to English. But hear me out here. Have you had a chance to hang out with Japanese inner circle? Because I feel like the cultural relevance is important, right? In the English-speaking world, or like Americanized English, that internet, people are much more casual and informal in a public appearance. However, if I'm Chinese, by the way, so in the personal space of Asian cultures, which I would like to think includes Japanese, slang might be more common provided the context. So I think it does seem like in public, right? In a public space, both a lot of Asian face culture tends to be very proper. It doesn't necessarily mean there isn't slang or colloquialisms, although you might not be able to find it if you're not in an inner circle. You've talked with many Japanese, especially recently with friends. Japanese definitely uses a lot of slang. I see. Yeah, in Chinese, it's sometimes speaking proper, right? Like, for example, if you're learning Chinese and if you go to a friend, right? Like I had some family friends who made a comment like, "Oh, you're being too formal." So it came down to the point like, "Oh, okay." But it is an interesting thing. Oh, so you have Japanese friend circles. That's cool. 20 and multilingual. Is Japanese your second language? You just mean when I was first hearing Japanese, so it's difficult to learn. Oh yeah, but what I mean, I wasn't referring to that comment. I was referring to when you were comparing English, the prevalence of English slang with the prevalence of Japanese slang. As opposed to when you were talking about the translation thing. I was talking about earlier observations. I'm not entirely sure if being a foreigner allows one to be exposed to the extent of slang that is in an inner circle in a face culture. Like in a non-face culture, like English, people throw slang around publicly. In like Asian cultures and face cultures, at least in my opinion, you don't use those phrases in public. So online would be considered a public space. Yeah, Japanese is your second language. You can read a bit of Korean and Spanish too, though you suck at both. Way to go. 20 and multilingual. So 3 years. What motivated you to learn Japanese so consistently and so dedicated at a time in your high school days, I suppose? I learned Spanish. Spanish was my high school language of choice, and then I carried it to college. But we haven't crossed Spanish yet. I'm reviewing Spanish. But I will be adding that in February. There are so many people who either know Spanish or that I've become acquainted with so far, and they picked up a different language. It's a mix between like those who are interested in Japanese, Korean, or Chinese, but they have other languages. Interesting. So Spanish, huh? And a bit of Korean. How are you going about, now that you're experienced in language learning, how are you going about that? In what way are you approaching Korean and Spanish? Honestly, you just thought the language looked and sounded cool, maybe because of anime? I see. Then you went away from anime for a long time, just found myself being interested in the language and culture stuff? Ah, I see. Have you had an opportunity to experience that culture in any way? With like peeps and whatnot? Maybe like a cultural festival of some sort? 要求
救护车
要求 Whoops.
救车
Demand 要求 Oh.
要求
要求 Oh, that makes sense. Huh. Interesting.
要求
救护车
So, you went away from anime, huh? Interesting. What prompt that?
救护车
救护车
护
车
车
Not necessarily as much as I would like to. I don't really have the money to travel to Japan right now, but do a lot of studying about cultural things. I see. Well, I mentioned cultural festivals, and cultural festivals I guess it really, I don't know where you're from, but cultural festivals are not necessarily in Japan. Unless you're in a place that's incredibly highly conservative. I happen to live in a very highly conservative place, so finding like a community center or something, a cultural center, where you would be able to interact with that stuff, like abroad, for example, not very available. However, I am acquainted over these months, acquainted with another person who happens to live in an area where there are Japanese cultural centers and a local Japanese community. So they were able to sort of experience things in the neighborhood, right? As an extension of Japanese culture.
要求
要求后来 The state you're in doesn't have anything like that, sadly. At least not that you found. Okay. So these Japanese people are abroad, I imagine then. Do you happen to coincidentally have a friend who happens to also be interested in Japanese language learning or is of Japanese relations?
音乐
I personally have not met someone personal, like I don't have a personal friend who either is international or of diaspora. Not yet, anyways.
从来
There is one sort of. Oh no, just kidding. That person ended up being a catfish.
救护车
The one person that I thought I have conversed it with that happens to be diaspora, that was a catfish. You actually met a few people through Twitch a long time ago and we always talk together. They're from Japan. Oh, that's cool. Very nice. Well, that's all you need, really. Yeah, I have yet to have a personal friend who is Japanese. I've met people professionally. That's usually like talking, and usually we use English because the prior professional thing was science related, and oftentimes the gathering of people, you default to English. However, it was kind of interesting to hear it every once in a while from that person. You can definitely hear the Japaneseism in a person's English. However, that was before I could comprehend or read any Japanese, so
要求
it was more of a feel than anything. Well, for you, you're kind of a loner, so you like to do your learning by yourself usually. I see. Although learning a language by hearing other people speaking is so helpful. Oh, okay. Fair enough.
要求
要求
就要求
Intriguing. You like learning by yourself and through observation. May I ask, what do you do now? Are you finding Japanese applicable, or is this still an ongoing self-interest hobby and you do something else professionally? Chinese, though, it seems so hard saying that as if I didn't have to study hiragana, katakana, and kanji. I think feel free to join me. You've already got 3 years of kanji. This is a walk in the park. And then you get to experience tonal language. Always kind of nice. I am a little bit big disclaimer, right? I spend most of my time speaking a language that is tonal at home, so mileage might vary on the tonal side of things. But experiencing what your voice can do is kind of like singing, I feel. Like if you're into the whole voice manipulation. I imagine most of your experiences with pitch accent will probably come into the ear training. I would love to see what your experiences are. I think you can probably take a guess pretty rapidly. I staggered my Chinese studies with my Japanese studies. Now they're intertwined, so it's very hard to not think in both when you're looking at Hanzi or Kanji, right? It's very difficult. Although I still have some leeway because there are characters that are unique so far still to Chinese that is unique to Japanese, because I either don't know the character meaning for Japanese yet or vice versa. Like, for example, these three characters. There are no assigned Japanese meaning to these three characters yet. Kanji is hard though, even I know it. Some of them are very hard to remember. I can imagine. What I'm suggesting, you remember the kanji easier if you see the full word? That's understandable. That makes sense. What I might be suggesting also is that while kanji is hard, Hanzi and kanji simultaneously, to me, is less hard to remember, because you have double the association. Like, for example, 音乐, right? 音乐 right here.
音乐.
音乐. Because of 音乐, you might be thinking, well, that doesn't look like anything you're familiar with. But the association is sufficient to make this remind me of ongaku. Ongaku is what this is, by the way. 音乐. Ongaku. This part is exchanged with this part. With this kanji? Oh no, I know you're familiar with kanji. I'm sure you're familiar with lots of kanji. But you're familiar with this this character? This character doesn't exist in this context. These are I picked this example specifically because this is not a Hanzi as well. It's a special case. And then this one's not a kanji. At least that I'm aware of. Maybe something that looks similar to it. This is an example. No, I mean the first character of that word is in a lot of... Oh yeah, it is. However, you will know this as music very regularly if... Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's in a lot of Japanese work. So are all the Hanzi. All the Hanzi are in many. They're all in Japanese work. Almost all of them. This happens to be one of the special cases. But yes, I would not be surprised if you recognize all of these, except for the simplified versions. But hear me out here. This is simplified Chinese. You can guess what the Japanese character is, even in the simplified character. That's a good example of a simplified character. Is there one here? I don't actually know. This might be a simplified character. Possibly. The rest aren't simplified here. So we need to find a simplified example. I'm sharing this because I think a lot of the Japanese peeps, the people who like have 3 or 4 years, find it very like a fun game to guess at this. To guess at these words. And I find it very fun too, using Japanese. Whenever a new vocabulary word shows up, I'm like, I don't know the Chinese meaning, but is there anything related in Chinese or Japanese, right? It's kind of fun when they're really different and really similar. Yes, yes. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they go in different directions, and that's the fun. That's the fun of having both of them side by side, at least in my opinion.
救护车，
救护车，拿来，
拿来，
拿来，拿来，
音乐，
来了，
来了，
要求，
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 后来，
后来，
救护车，
救护车。There is this interesting phenomenon. There is this interesting phenomenon that the higher, more technical language that you get into Japanese, the more and more the Chinese and Japanese converges. So Chinese, I'm sure you've heard this before somewhere in some viral video, but Chinese and Japanese converge in writing when it becomes highly technical. So like the more formal and professional it becomes, the more Chinese and Japanese converges in writing. And I noticed, I already noticed that in like newspaper reports and whatnot, even though I have a very novice understanding. But in the end, when you like start translating the stuff, they're nearly on top of each other.
西班牙音乐，
西班牙音乐，
要求，
要求，
下
下
来，
来，
要求，
救护车，
True, because Japanese has its own informal word in slang, which is kind of nice because it makes it unique. Yeah, yeah. So may I ask, what do you do now? Being that you're in your 20s, are you in a university of sorts? Are you pursuing a professional career right now? 救护车。Ooh, it's 4 a.m. Okay. What was this? 选保持咨询啊，那机咨询保持咨询上班 whoops go to work 上班咨询下班保持吃了
咨询
You get to read blueprints in other language. Oh, learning language helps a lot in architecture, actually. Oh, college student architecture. Architect, interior designer. Well, that's fancy. Huh. I think you're the first architect / interior designer that I've met so far since we started language learning. We had tons of CS majors, tons of computer science majors, and then a teacher or two, and then yeah, in terms of students, tons of computer science majors. I think one might have been in business. Architecture, huh? That's kind of neat. And that's a great way to integrate your surrounding yourself in Japanese. Nice. Get to read blueprints in other languages. That's kind of neat. Oh, how's that going? May I ask? Obviously, it's not related to language learning to some extent, but did language learning have anything to do with your architecture and interior design choice?
咨询
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 保持咨询
咨询
咨询
personal share. Since I'm asking a lot of questions, personal share. Since I was 5, video games have been a big part of my life. It was a Sega Genesis, Sonic the Hedgehog. Been infatuated with the Japanese gaming industry for quite some time now, and anime is a thing too. A little later, I was born before when anime became accessible. Now anime is incredibly accessible. But and then because I'm related in an Asian background heritage, Japanese is the most accessible culture by extension. Chinese, even to this day, is not quite accessible. So Chinese culture I inherited from my parents, and then by extension, my attachment to the Japanese culture is in relevance and relationship with my Chinese heritage. So I'm on Twitch because I play video games, and learning Japanese and Chinese is another avenue to engage in gaming, teaching cultural awareness, and being multicultural in general. Not necessarily, but you found yourself wanting to incorporate Japanese American cultural work into your designs. Very nice. I like it. I would love to see a future design of a Japanese Americana fusion like design. That's quite neat. I think my studying always pays off. So it has already paid off, if you know what I mean. This might be a slightly different viewpoint about life, but every day pays off the day. So if I stopped studying now, it would have already paid off. I got to talk to people like you and other people. The experience is already cashed out. Typically, I develop a skill as it's going. So I don't really have a necessary end goal. Each day is a wonderful journey, and that journey has already paid its stuff off. It would be interesting, though, if it becomes something bigger than what I could imagine. However, generally speaking, I don't bank on something lofty down the road. It's true, I think you're Japanese, and from what I can hear, your Chinese is as well as very good. Oh, thank you. Again, I try. Long ways to go. However, it's probably talking to people like you and like younger generation, how they learn, how they teach themselves, their preferred studying methods. That's probably what's keeping me going most of the time. Whether I reach any level of competence, that's perfectly fine. But I think obviously there's a reason why I'm streaming language learning and not studying on my own, right? So it's quite lovely to hear someone who is bright and excited about their Japanese language learning. Oftentimes, I think new language learners often get an impression that 3 or 4 years down the line, it becomes somewhat of a sore, contentious grind spot, if you know what I mean. I'm not sure if you ever got that impression while you were learning, where you hear like often a lot of cynicism when it comes to engaging in a lifelong journey of language learning or acquiring another language for everyday use, right? It is an experience that I can't relate to anyone, anymore. Like as I was born, you know, when I was brought into this world, speaking multiple language is the social norm, not the other way around. So I can't really empathize with people who often speak exclusively or want to speak exclusively in anything. You find yourself being motivated to learn by hearing other stories about how they learn as well. Oh, okay. I would say, although I've been learning for almost 3 years, I still think I have a long way to go. Fair enough. But you can handle a lot of conversations usually. That sounds amazing. I can't, I usually do the whole Japanglish and like any English kind of thing. So, in fact, to this day, I still do that out of convenience. Largely due to the nature that when you are speaking two different languages, I found the social norm or the most comfortable place is to constantly flip back and forth between the languages. So lots of times it's like, ooh, Chinese? Benkyou suru? Today. Ahora desu. Ahora desu. Sorry. Whenever I think like kyo desu or like 现在, right? 现在, I'm like ahora desu. I'm like, wait, hold up. Like now, like right now, ahora, in Spanish. It sounds so good together. Ahora desu. You do that too usually when I'm talking with Japanese friends. It helps them learn English as well. Yeah, ahora desu. My folks are the same now. They didn't ever sit down to learn English, but that's exactly what I mean. When you're doing hybrid languaging, and then you find that you have you have friends that have a mutual language involved, it's actually a wonderful way to pick it up. So when you said you watched a lot of podcasts and whatnot, right now my main squeeze, it used to be like vlogging and monolingual. I like studying people's behavioral patterns and their life stories and stuff. So I watch like interviews of prominent figures like scientists and experts talk about their solutions in like management and behavior and career oriented stuff. However, now I can watch multicultural vlogs and life stuff where you just have you have a multicultural couple and they make observations of each other's cultures. And then you can listen to like Japanese and American couple talk about stuff where they go back and forth. Like you'll hear Japanese on the side, you'll hear English on the side. And the idea is at some point, it's like, oh, okay, so this is associated with this is associated with that. Here's another really interesting thing for readers or people who like to self-study. Bilingual textbooks. Or no, bilingual like novels. Sorry. Like pleasure reading. Bilingual pleasure reading is so interesting. Personally, as a gaming request, it would be cool to have multi-channel dubbing, which the closest thing right now to that is Tekken. The most topical thing is Tekken 8. However, Tekken 8 isn't like exclusive extensively to a novella. It's a fighting game, so mostly it's cutscenes and stuff. And in Tekken 8, every character speaks their native language, as though there's a universal translator. However, it would be awesome to have like a narrative game that have like, you know, an interaction between Japanese and English speakers, where one side speaks English and one side speaks Japanese. But bilingual books are really interesting. So the left side is one language and the right side is another language, and it's of the same page. So you can literally go back and forth in one page. I was turned on to this by some other people there are projects that run the parallel things for like classic literature projects. So yeah, multilingual life. It's interesting. I think multicultural couples are fascinating, actually, especially when the couple meet without knowing barely any of without knowing their partner languages, and then they talk about their experiences. That hits very, very different. Being acquiring a second language, that hits so different when you watch that content anymore. The thing that I can't experience anymore, which I would love to see what it's like, is what is the perspective. I usually ask people what are their perspectives. Like, if you're watching a multilingual couple, do you have the sense of urge to want to learn another language? Like, I typically ask people, what are the motivations? Largely for me, it's like breathing to code swap most of the time. With that said, though, the language that I speak with my parents is a dialect of Mandarin. It's called Fujianese. And Hujiwa,亚语乡音亚语普通话，但公话 doesn't sound like the same as Mandarin, so it's kind of very noticeably different, and it's unintelligible most of the time. So at some point, you kind of have to negotiate that type of thing too. Fujianese is kind of a blend of other things. I'm sure you are familiar with like dialects, the idea of dialects. However, in Japanese, I suppose, Japanese is somewhat softer when it comes to their dialects. In Chinese, the dialects are largely unintelligible. Maybe due to like the nature of its tonality or something. Well, you don't know if this is really, but as I was growing up while learning Japanese, you found yourself wanting to find a partner who is Japanese so you can be with someone who knew it? Oh, that's kind of cute. Did you manage to find someone? That would be a very cute story. It sounds like you're really engrossed into the language and the culture. That sounds like someone who really likes the culture. Am I infatuated with the Japanese culture? I'm infatuated with the Japanese culture. However, maybe not in the sense of that. Honestly, I just kind of like watching people who speak a language I don't speak. Like, hear me out here. Hear me out. I don't want to make it sound like it's taking away, but there's something mystical and mystique whenever you have someone like saying something and you're like, I think you're angry right now. Tell me what I did wrong. And they would keep speaking like, oh. There's something so magical about the first time you like speak to someone and you have a barrier that you need to overcome. At least personally for me. Maybe that's the magic of language learning, right? When someone speaks to me and they're having trouble speaking to me and I have trouble speaking to them, that is like the thing that makes me want to learn a language. So when people have problems doing something and resolving it, I love the idea. Language learning is like a problem solving thing. It's like, what are you saying? Which, by the way, if you're watching movies and you're on to media, there's no shortage of exposure. German films are fantastic. If you watch the dark sci-fi recently, literally dark. It's in German, right? I recently watched an entire program in Spanish. It was not. It was fine. It was, I think 3% was dubbed in Spanish. I'm not sure what the native language was. It seemed like it was, the lip movement seemed to match up pretty well. Still watch Korean entertainment with no understanding of the Korean language other than the feel of Korean language. I do like it a lot, although when I say that, I feel like I sound like just some weirdo weeb. What's wrong with that? I'm kidding, but not really. Like, you understand Japanese. It's three solid years. That's no small feat, right? Think about it this way. Let's frame it in a more realistic way. You have voluntarily and consistently surrounded yourself in acquisition of a skill with a level of nuance that rivals that of a bachelor's degree in a field of your choice. There are very few things that can compare to that. I'm sure, I mean, I don't know how your university life is going, but if you're already able to do that before you complete a bachelor's degree, I think being infatuated and being considered a weirdo for being enthusiastic about a highly dynamic learning process and becoming attached to it, it's kind of an understatement. I'm sure you've heard other people express, like, for example, I spent my life being a scientist, right? Or trying to be a scientist anyways, and teaching. So I can honestly tell you, I really loved teaching and scientists, and becoming infatuated with people who are brilliant teachers and brilliant scientists may make you somewhat of a weirdo too. If that's how that turns out. But it sounds like a genuine interest in everything that's Japanese. What isn't true? Which isn't true because you honestly do so much more than just watch anime. I would like to believe you do so much more than just watch anime, right? I think overall, those who watch anime and started learning Japanese often will lack the consistency to follow through. However, those who start learning Japanese as a spark from anime will become to love more than just anime. And that's kind of one of those, like, human condition thing. I think I'm willing to wager that more than 50% would have those outcomes. Yet I find it intriguing. It's like you get to learn a whole other level. Yeah, a whole different side of things. Right now, I really enjoy watching animation. And I'm not talking about anime now, but I'm talking about like Disney films, like CGI, if you will, and whatnot. There are a lot of films that are available in Japanese. And there are quite a lot of films and with deep perspectives and whatnot and deep cuts that now I get to watch in Japanese. And the world is very different from that. You chose not to take any language classes in any of your school years, actually, besides the requirement for your middle school. I think language classes in college don't actually teach you enough of what is used on a daily basis in that country. Interesting. What are your experiences with language classes in college? Honestly, you grew up watching shows like Cowboy Bebop and so many old anime. I think my spark started from those. Cowboy Bebop is certainly a first. One of my first. FMA definitely is traveling way back. It was Mobile Suit Gundam, the first Mobile Suit Gundam, and then maybe Hajime no Ippo, which goes back kind of far. Quite a bit before Cowboy Bebop, but I feel ya. Very empathizing. I'm not sure. So, how is your observation about language classes in college don't actually teach you enough of what is used on a daily basis in that country? how does one gather that observation? Oh, and you had language requirements in middle school. Interesting.
咨询
咨询咨询咨询 what are you? 是解释解释
结束
结束 oh no that's 树结束
看完
看完something 高提高哎呀提高
提高
提高
保持
保持
Since you've never taken college, I don't have my own say in it, but I've seen so many people in your college say that the classes aren't as helpful as they should be. Interesting. Maybe it's just the teachers themselves, I don't know. I'm it would be interesting to hear what your the people expect from a college class. I don't actually know. I took Spanish as my college class, and I think the volume and density was perhaps not sufficient. However, you can only squeeze so much into the semester, and oftentimes I found that the volume is not the bottleneck. It's the engagement necessary to be invested in the class. So oftentimes there's a big contrast between self-selected interest in language learning versus obligatory language learning. So I can't necessarily speak obligatory language learning. So I can't really necessarily, since I was young back then, I wasn't like a professional, like I'm not me now, right? So I can't really see these observations. Upon reflection, I think a vast majority of people who take language and that sentiment comes from filling requirements. Like filling requirements, like gen ed requirements or something. And then tangentially some adjacent interest. And if there's anything I gathered from the newer generation is often that the language or the skill building aspect is quite superseded by engagement. And expectations tend to not coincide with older formal education. So what I mean by that is there are things that are teaching the newer generation in a manner that older formats and formal education have not changed or suited for. So when will that change? In the United States, like for example, in the United States, probably a very long time. And by that time, like say like 5 years down the line, there's going to be a new standard for this type of thing. Well, then it'll be 5 years out of date. Largely due to the pace of other technologies, right? So the infrastructure of formal education and how to standardize things and vetting process would have to escalate. It would have to accelerate in some way fundamentally in order to keep pace with the perception of what is expected. Is this good or a bad thing? Well, I like to think it might be a different thing. So nowadays, I find that younger generation knows so much static information, as in they are such a breadth. There's such a breadth of the type of knowledge that they have and semantics. Like they take in so much knowledge and information. However, their critical thinking skills and problem solving skills are non-existent, largely due to compensating for the amount of time that they're taking in information. And one of the things that you go to college for still is being challenged by a less ideal situation in order to acquire knowledge through problem solving and critical thinking. So back in the day, yes, I still experienced that the high school and middle school, high school, and even early college did not suit my aptitude. However, that was the nature of college. It was the nature of formal education. If it doesn't suit you, you make it suit you. It's part of the problem solving skills. And becoming a professional and into like a career and whatnot, that will be the shining skill that presents someone who is committed to something regardless of obligation. They're able to make it work. In this day and age, due to the advent of the internet, expectations are what runs people's satisfaction. So in my opinion, it's kind of difficult to know from people's comments of how they feel based on their expectations if the efficacy or the efficacy of a teacher or something is not constantly marred by a strong selection for projecting one's expectations instead of making the best of what is offered. There's also isn't Japanese courses in your college, it's just Spanish, Italian, French, and Chinese. Interesting. You are the 4th or 5th person that mentioned Chinese. I wanted to be able to speak to someone of any generation in Japanese, so I try to stay knowledgeable about how words are changing and what stays the same. Oh, okay, true. I'm not necessarily old, but I've noticed how people younger than you in so much knowledge, but they don't learn much from that knowledge because they don't apply it to real life scenarios. Yeah, unless they have a specific interest in it. Yeah, and that specific interest is super narrow because of algo driven things. Like if you're interested in this thing, it stays concentrated in this thing. So in this very small field, there is critical thinking. This is I'm plugging what I'm doing, by the way. In this field is critical thinking, but the young generation know this much knowledge. Okay? So my goal, oftentimes when I was talking about educating, like teaching, was you take this concentrated, narrow field of interest and get them interested in applying that interest into all the other knowledge that they have. Like, for example, someone who really, really loves Souls games, for example. They love Souls-like, right? It's in this thing. So whenever you put a Souls-like game in front of them, they're like critical thinking like mad, right? They know all the information, but they are also able to apply it. Now, reframe. You can frame or attempt to frame a Souls-like in the other spheres of knowledge that they have. And hopefully, that's how you take the engagement that they have and be able to channel it to other forms of thinking, other like interest, other like disciplines and whatnot, and that might stimulate critical thinking, right? Because for now they know a lot of things, but they're specifically interested in very narrow things, because when you spend most of your time seeing what you want to see. And lots of that deals with the internet's design right now. So I've been thinking and brainstorming about this all the time. This like interaction with the common, the majority type of interaction with younger kids, and how fast they can absorb information if they want to absorb information. Yet rarely are they constructing and creating with this information, because you don't have to. You basically don't have to, since someone else may have already done that. But that someone else belongs to a different selective group, right? We're talking about people that aren't part of that generation. So hopefully, in my opinion, in the future, that might change. I think part of the blame could be placed on AI and things like the internet. Yes, on automation, and not necessarily on all the new technology. But I think it's yes, it's the automation, and it's not intentional. Like, you know, my spiel is, this is a coincidental consequence of new technology for both the usefulness of technology and how efficient it is. The new technology is incredibly efficient, along with marketing and the development and stuff. And a coincident byproduct of that is you have hyperstimulation of young kids. And actually, I'm saying anyone who's like 20 or below, it seems like you have not become too dependent on that type of stuff, and being able to like self-study and not be driven by a decision making that is solely based on an algorithm based stimulation, right? Nowadays though, I don't want to overreach, but I do feel it brings joy to my heart when I hear people around their 20s and younger speaking passionately about creating things from the things they learn and making decisions about more than one thing, as opposed to you ask their question and they're like, oh, you know, nothing exciting happened. And then you ask them, okay, what would you consider as exciting? And they would say things like, and I'm paraphrasing, they would basically say things like, I don't know, whatever is interesting on the internet. Like, wait, hold up. You need the internet to tell you what's interesting? Like, is there anything that you've known about yourself that makes you passionate regardless of what's being offered? And I think, why do I stream? That answers that question. Like, the idea is to kind of push kids buttons, and even adults nowadays. Like, you got to find something interesting in your life that is not dependent on something to tell you why it's interesting. Like, I legitimately, it is very, very difficult, and it is quite rare to hear someone, like, you ask them, so what did you do today? Like, did anything interesting happen? It's like, no, nothing interesting. And then I ask them, so, you know, what would you consider interesting? And they're like, maybe something regarding this very specific game or very specific activity. And my question is like, so how often do you get to do this very specific activity, and how often is it interesting? And they would describe something like, no, you know, it's basically a grind. Like, you just float along. Occasionally something happens. Like, well, that sounds like you have a lot of time to find more interesting things that you can create together and build together. They're like, nah, this nothing really hits the same as this one thing. And my thought was, isn't that great? so that it isn't the same thing you're always looking for. And that is the deep cut that I'm leaning towards when it comes to how efficient technology is now. It's to the point where the whole world and interest is conditioned onto the things you want to see. So no longer is it interesting to be intrigued and curious about other things. So we already had an exchange about how not knowing what language someone else speaks can be very intriguing, right? It can promote curiosity and whatnot. I'm not saying all kids, like university, those who actually self-select themselves into universities still have that self-drive to learn something that is genuinely curious out of being mystical or being unknowing, right? And oftentimes, if it doesn't meet your expectation, it becomes something to forget. Instead of thinking about, okay, you expect something. It could be worse. It could be better. It could be something you never thought about. Generally speaking, when you ask someone nowadays, at least a slightly younger audience who's attached to an algorithm, if it doesn't meet their expectations, it's dissatisfactory. They can no longer extract, in my opinion, they are unlikely or less likely to extract information from a unexpected or a negative experience. A negative experience is everything outside their expectation. So you can no longer learn from disliking something. You can no longer discover new things of which you don't expect to be interested in. So naturally, the most satisfying thing that encourages them to be excited and interested and curious is the exact thing that they expect to do every day. I legit have a difficult time trying to get someone to want to interact with someone other than interacting with people within the scope of a very specific video game, right? Like, oh, I can't talk to other people. Other people are different. They're not people from Roblox. Right? That's kind of tough. Yeah, the internet is both a very good thing and yet a bad thing. Yeah, it's access. It's incredibly efficient. It's so efficient at providing exactly what you're looking for. However, because it always provides exactly what you're looking for, it no longer normalizes what happens when you don't get exactly what you're looking for. You no longer solve problems. The internet is so good at finding that thing, you don't have to practice doing that anymore. And to me, that's great for information. It's great for things you don't have to care about but have to do. It's not great when you have to make things work because you care about them, right? Because there won't be solutions for that. What if you like ugly pictures, quote unquote ugly pictures? What if you wanted to learn a language that no one cares about? What if you wanted to learn the less popular of languages, right? That's tough. Those are tough decisions. What if you had FOMO? What if you can navigate around FOMO? Like, oh, everyone's watching this anime, and then you just chill and watch whatever 3-year-old anime you wanted to watch in the first place, right? Like, the internet is so good at promoting that everyone thinks the same, behave the same, and very similarly popularly trending that conversation and communication is implied by that. So hear me out here. When someone says, bruh, are you even trying? I'm like, bruh, I don't understand your language. Have you spoken to someone who doesn't sound like that? So that's the tough part, right? Internet's really good at getting everyone on the same page, sort of, in a selective manner. And it's so good that you no longer have to ever think about what happens when it's not ideal. So it cuts down the need for developing interpersonal skills. It cuts down the need to discuss problems, compromise problems, deal with conflicts of interest. So all of that is like crazy. Like when someone immediately disagrees with you, they either are gone, place you on block, or they never have to practice ever again. It's crazy. It's even affected jobs in architecture. Oh, that's interesting. We used to manually draft ideas onto blueprints and be more handy with the things we would create. Yeah, but how you can just use AI generated design and your work is done. Yeah. There's no longer joy in doing that. I know some people might say like, well, why waste your life doing that? Right? Why waste creating something that is uniquely an expression of yourself, that's part of the human, when you can efficiently do it without fault and stuff? It's like, that's like asking, why do you get up and do things? You're human. It's beautiful. And not every day do you have to fully optimize your life in that way. You're optimizing for happiness, in my opinion. As the meaning of life is optimizing for happiness and satisfaction, not optimizing for pragmatism. I mean, you could have pragmatism, most certainly, for like work and whatnot, but man, people optimize making friends. How do you make friends these days? You let an algorithm matchmake you into a room, and then you hope that if you win, you can become friends with them. And if you keep winning, you become friends with them. When you start losing, you're no longer friends. I'm laughing, but I'm not joking. That's one of the most statistically likelihood of relationships right now. To make friends among a younger generation is to have an algo match you up, and if you just so happen to win and be on the same page, you stay friends. And then immediately when the game ends, there's nothing that reinforces that. Not only do they not want to talk to each other, they only want to talk to each other when the algo suggests a game together. So either you play the same game and stay friends, or you don't play the same game and you stop being friends. Right? The level of thinking involved in something less ideal, like interacting with a human being, is substantially deficient. I don't think they're incapable. I don't think, like, we're talking about the consequence of using very efficient technology, more or less. You don't have to do that work. You no longer have to talk to a human being if a system puts you together. So when you go to school, it's like you stay in that state where, oh, if I have to get a job, I'll let something help me get a job. And then when that job isn't to your liking, then it's the system's fault for not making you like the job. Because the system should be good enough to pick the perfect job for you. I earnestly have heard this before, where like, dude, I used this search engine and all my credentials said I qualify for this, and then after the interview, I didn't get hired. I'm like, yeah, because you were probably still interacting with someone. Did you say anything? Like, well, yeah, they asked these questions, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's not important to me. I'm like, okay, did you try to explain why you don't know? And then why it's not interesting to you, so that that other person understands why it's not interesting. And then demonstrate that you are interested in other things that are related to the job, right? Because you have to be able to express that to another human being. That would be more interesting than an inability to express anything. Like, here's my thought on video games. When you play a video game, if you lose, someone's gonna say you suck. The game said we lost, so feel bad, let's move on. Instead of sitting down and say, okay, so what can we do better there? Say, hey guys, good try. Do you want to stay together? Maybe we can like try to get better together or something. There's none of that. You don't have to do that. You lose, you get re-queued to another thing. You don't engage in any form of problem solving. Not only do your performance not improve in the team-based thing, your performance individually might improve. However, when you're interacting with another human being, it's not just you, unfortunately. So it's kind of tough. The toughest opponents, the toughest things to do are imperfect, which makes humans humans, right? So if you asked me 20 years ago that technology would be the unforeseen consequence of hyper objectivity and hyper efficiency, I would be saying the internet what? And now, now we know what that looks like. Now we know how kids, younger people, can spew tons of facts and feel nothing. Like feel absolutely nothing. It's only when their small sphere gets intruded upon that all of that excess energy and passion gets released. We know what that looks like, right? Like you could talk about any game, like for example, you can talk about any game, scrutinize it to high heaven. The moment you cross the line into their sphere, you can see how much passion they have, yet it doesn't translate to anything else outside of their interest. So that's kind of like the whole brain rot situation, right? If you affect their doom scrolling, oh heck, they're gonna be able to defend that. But outside of that, there's nothing else. Like, have you had a good meal today? Have you ate well? Did you sleep well? It's like, oh, you know, I don't care about sleeping. I'll just sleep whenever I sleep. And then it's like, but if you sleep well, you can also enjoy your content well, right? Aren't you interested in improving your sleep hygiene? Or perhaps? Like, nah, that's not important. It's completely unrelated to why I'm angry all the time. Like, well, maybe. No, I think it's related, but I don't want to press too hard. You love when people do more hands-on work with things they're passionate about rather than just popping on an idea into the internet, having that do the work for you. Yeah, I love the beauty of seeing people work. If you sleep well, isn't it almost 5 a.m.? Yes, it is almost 5 a.m. Yeah, I will probably... I was just filling in some extra exercise here, but I stay for the conversation. It's... whenever someone give me the time of day, I would seize that opportunity, regardless. So I wouldn't abandon the conversation largely due to my own... In fact, I'm more energized than I've ever been today. Anyways, let me read your other ones. Yeah, everyone seems to think the same nowadays too. It's hard to find those truly unique thinking people, at least where I'm from. And it's because of embarrassment too. Like, dude, here's my thought. Remember you said some people would think you're a weirdo weeb? My thought was, that sounds like something that I would want to be friends with. What I mean is, if you have apprehension and you think you're kind of weird, that sounds like a selling point nowadays. Honestly, like, wait, you didn't say you were like all the other people. You attempted to distinguish, right? And then you had apprehension about being lumped together, and that's neat. Obviously, being lumped together is also useful, right? Like, you want to be lumped together with successful people or something like that. However, just the idea that you have the self-awareness to mention that, as opposed to a vast majority of my conversation where there's a lack of self-awareness. Like, for example, you said language learning. You like language learning, right? You love language learning. I have plenty of conversations where someone says, Oh yeah, I love language learning. Like, this is my favorite thing. I love watching people learn from mistakes and whatnot. And suddenly, a few strings down the line, it's like, you do know you keep correcting me, right? If you like language learning and you're telling me that you love learning from mistakes because that's the stuff that you do, why do you keep correcting me? Like, it feels like it's a little bit lack of self-awareness, or is this a double standard? Like, is there a miscommunication with the idea that you express something and yet your behavior doesn't coincide with it, or something like that, right? You can't just erase faults from the world. That's how humans operate. Exactly. It's beautiful, by the way. There was a time when I would say too much human error is scary, right? We want to optimize and reduce human error. In a hyper internet world, you can imagine that the thing that sticks out now is what makes us human. So nowadays, when artwork looks like AI generated artwork, for example, I don't want to raise a huge fire. My favorite ones are now like animation that has a human touch to it, right? So due to the excess in exactness and whatnot, creators and whatnot seem to here's a good one. It's super topical, and you'll probably notice this. The hyper produced YouTube content that was once a gold standard has largely been industrialized now. And now the new trend are hand cams, are manual cameras. So the creators of today now has a new wave. This only happened this year, by the way. A new wave that people are using hand cams. Like, they're going back to rotary manual cameras because it no longer feels mass produced. It is the fingerprint of human creativity that has been already super optimized by mechanical things. So now you have like videos where like there's a lens flare. All of a sudden it's like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why they did that. And then sometimes like the audio would be like in balance from left to right. It's like, oh, huh. That's kind of my jam. It's great to have very consistent elements. It's not so great when it's completely void of humanity. It's like completely not. So when I think of architecture, right? You could make a perfectly symmetrical building that is like the most optimized, but it would be the least character. The architecture would lack character. And I think one of the things that I absolutely love about the Japanese culture, Asian culture in general, is the architecture. Like, that architecture is so unnecessarily impractical. Like, if you ask, like, I'm sure AI will be able to do something to splice a large sample size, but the question is, if you ask an AI, it's like, make a very, very efficient building in this style, it's like they probably can do it to some extent, right? But man, sometimes if you defy that logic, it's a human touch. And sorry, I was linking it back to architecture because architecture is fantastic. It's so whimsical, fantastical. Now, a human trying to be hyper like modernized and minimalistic, that in itself wouldn't necessarily reflect the robotic nature of something that's synthesized, industrialized, right? Like heavily repetitious. So, hey, that's just my thought. I think it speaks volumes when the most successful businesses in entertainment is iterating on the same content. The last thing I want to hear is that anybody younger than 18 comes to you and say, why can't you be exactly like this? Why can you not be exactly like this? oh, I came to this stream because I thought you're going to be exactly going to do this. And my thought was, is life exciting anymore? Like, is life exciting for you anymore? Like, you wake up and you know everything that's going to happen. I get it. Anxiety, fear of the unknown. It is a very natural human response to have total and utter expectation and control over your environment. Hear me out here. Hear me out. There's also this magical thing that human condition does. It allows you to be adaptive to things. So one can also have many new experiences, but also feel less anxiety and problems with the unknown because they have confidence in their ability to tackle the unknown and the unexpected. That's the element of problem solving and critical thinking. Like, someone asked me, like, aren't you worried that if you start with Duolingo, this is an honest anecdotal question, if you start with Duolingo learning Japanese, you would learn the wrong way and you would be stuck learning only knowing Duolingo? It's like, wait, what do you mean you would be stuck only dependent on something? You learn whatever you can take from the tool and you move on. You start with new thing, like you take more new things. Like you the unknown and the fear of the unknown is not predetermined. So if you're a problem solver, you start somewhere and you work through it. You start somewhere, you work through it. And it's great to contemplate all the possible iterations of your outcome. However, there's a point in excess. When you become too overtly concerned with that, you might not ever start in the first place. It's to the point where there's no emergent property potential anymore. There's no chance that when someone says, oh, if you start learning Japanese now, you might end up learning Chinese later. If I learn Japanese now, how long would it take me? If someone tells me it takes me 3 months to learn Japanese and that matches my scope, I better learn Japanese in 3 months. If not, I'm going to complain about it because it's your fault. You did not give me the guarantee that you will learn Japanese in 3 months without even a qualification of what it means to learn Japanese. Like, people don't even have to qualify it anymore. So you get to the point where if they don't know the outcome, they won't do it. And if they do know the outcome and it doesn't meet the outcome, there's no salvaging it. It's a waste of time. So if you watch a movie and you found out you didn't like it, even though you were expected to like it, then they forget about it. It's not important. You don't learn anything from, well, why did the movie not meet your expectations? And there's a point when you discover something that you might not like at first, it can become beautiful later. There's no outside thinking whatsoever, right? That's kind of a scary thought. Like, imagine always hating someone because the first impression was terrible. Not sitting down and getting to know someone because they already know everything about you, or they think they know everything about you. Playing a game and thinking it's unfair because someone came up with a better idea, right? Because it's unfair if you come up with an idea that the game didn't intend to be designed to do. In reality, people make things. They evolve beyond the rules. So a cruel reality is when someone says, oh, it's not fair that this person got lucky. It's like, what do you mean it got lucky? They got lucky. It's like, well, see, they got lucky because everyone loves to help them and they're like good with friends and they're good at socializing. If I was good at socializing, then I would be lucky too. I'm like, well, that person probably worked on being social. No one said the rules were that everyone had to be suffering social anxiety in order to continue to suffer social anxiety, because that's how you level the playing field. Problem solving critical thinking helps you level the playing field or adapt to circumstances that are not ideal with you, cost benefit decision making, and how you resolve problems, or was it consolidate problems and whatnot. There's a lot of lack of that. So what do you think about people getting a tattoo or something of another culture? Oh, that's interesting. Of something of another culture? I'll give you a response that will be, for me personally, you always, more like 99% of the time, almost always, a person can do pretty much anything if they can provide me with their motivations and the story that goes with it. I think that would be the shortest, safest, and not digress into another 2-hour dilemma rabbit hole. If you got a tattoo, something of another culture, and you demonstrate to me that you had lots to say about it, and you can tell me a story, that sounds brilliant. If you tell me that, oh, I got this tattoo because it was cool, you feel me? Like, I'm like, okay, that's I didn't get anything from that. So personally, I would love to see most things if it meant something to them, because in my opinion, I think the most offensive, quote unquote, offensive in a overbearing way. I'm a little overbearing when it comes to this thing. I have very low tolerance for people who make decisions and they don't make decisions because they care, or like care enough to explain it to someone, right? Even if it's unintentionally offensive, or if you're worried about stuff, if you can explain it, that is beautiful. Like, you're, at least to me, you're humanizing it. I think oftentimes most of the miscommunication dealing with like decision making is often predicated on a lack of decision making, in my opinion. So I personally think by default that tattoo means a lot, and there's a lot of depth and understanding behind your choices. Definitely. Its architecture is definitely unique. I know how Asian architecture specifically is so different compared to literally any other culture. Yeah. Even architecture from places like Greece. Greece architecture is pretty and lively. America's architecture. I think in general, it's very industrial. It's very pragmatic. You're getting another tattoo soon, specifically of Japanese culture. It's a custom design from me that includes a Japanese dragon and red orchids. Oh, interesting. It represents bravery and passion or love. I can see that. A red orchid and the dragon for bravery. You wanted to have something permanent on yourself that motivates you throughout not just Japanese learning, but your whole life as well. Right on. Right on. So you have tattoos. I don't have any tattoos. I do carry trinkets though. I have this one trinket that's around my neck. It doesn't have anything to do with Japanese culture. However, there's a level of depth to it. I have only been outside the continental US once in my life, and it was a spur of the moment based on a spur of the moment to my then only best friends in my life in college. So we went to decide spontaneously somehow with the influence of other people. We're all homebodies, but we ended up going to New Zealand. We studied abroad in New Zealand. And during New Zealand, we had cultural classes, right, about the Maori people in New Zealand, which are Pacific Islanders of nature. right? Pacific Islanders, which also are very adjacent to most things Asian. So they have these deposits called greenstone or ponamu. And these greenstones are a different type of deposit from the jade stones. From the jade stones in China. And for the longest time, my parents used to give my sister and I jade, as in like the greenstone, right? The jade. And I thought, what is a great way to commemorate that once in a lifetime experience than getting ponamu, which is the greenstone in New Zealand, and have a priest bless it. So ever since then, this was almost 20 years ago, I still carry this thing on me. So yeah, a tattoo that carries permanently on yourself, by all means. If it's something that represents something you, that sounds fantastic. New Zealand, you have never been there. I know nothing about the country. It is cool. Is it cool? It's interesting. It's very Americanized. So we kind of felt at home, but at the same time, oh, it's very laid back. New Zealand is quite laid back. Here's the funny thing about foreigners, right? I think one of the first comments when we went to New Zealand was that they thought Americans were laid back. This is why I feel like interacting with people with different cultures lead to some of the most interesting interactions. One of the first comments is when they saw like me and my friends and whatnot, and we were talking about school and stuff, right? Because we're studying. They're like, wait, Americans are laid back, right? And then meanwhile, we're like worried about classes and getting good grades and whatnot. And New Zealand, immediately we look back and say, wait, dude, guys, you're so laid back. What the heck? You don't even attend classes. Like, attendance isn't even required. And the first thing you do when you get to university is you get smashed. Like drinking. Because they turn 18. They turn of legal drinking age in freshman year. so like we go to class and like the students that bother showing up, most of them are hungover. so our thoughts were, are you sure you think we're laid back? Because I'm not sure if it was like a loss in translation or something, but holy heck. So that was kind of one of the fun realizations. You've heard jade is very valuable to Asians, yeah, specifically Chinese culture. Not valuable in terms of its material worth, but its meaning, yeah. So this is a combination. It's a fish hook ponamu from New Zealand, and it symbolizes a very similar things as your need to use the dragon as a symbol. And obviously you might feel like, oh, but it's not permanent on the body. It's like, this is as permanent as to me as how devastated I would be if I suddenly got a cut and then the skin, like, it ruined the tattoo. Like this to me has been on me since 16 years ago. Like I even even when the threading and stuff gone, this like piece of trinket, it has been with me the whole time. I still have a few trinkets here and there I keep on myself at all times. So I can definitely understand keeping something with you that constantly reminds you of something, even when the memory may fade, right? Even when memory may fade. And I mean, I'm recording this as we speak. So technology has definitely, I totally agree with you. Technology has been a blessing. And yet it also has been a curse in disguise. Like, for example, about the recording thing. I could say, oh, I don't have to remember anything I learned because it's going to be recorded. So if I forget, I'm just going to go back and remind myself. Like, well, really? Yeah, priest blessed the trinket. Yeah, it's a Maori, our cultural awareness, like, person happens to be a Maori aborigine, like a Maori extension. So he happens to be a priest. So I kind of like the idea. I'm not the most like superstitious or spiritual person, but I like participating in other culture. So if this might seem, saying this might be a little bit insensitive maybe to other people unintentionally, I wanted to portray that there's so much story and sentimental that I can talk about what this trinket, this piece of stone represents for me. So yes, it might not be, I'm not Maori, right? I'm not Maori. I'm not connected with like Pacific Islanders. However, their culture breathed a lot of significance and reminder into it. So it's much like having a tattoo of another culture. The weight of its sentimentalism can supersede and cross cultural lines, right? I think oftentimes the examples you have and the bad actors, right? The bad examples of backlash and whatnot often comes from a place of ignorance and callousness, as opposed to the silent majority that find having sentimental, human, very human weight to things, whether it's with the full competence of a culture or not. That is felt universally, even across language barriers, right? I think the concern for misappropriation is certainly there, but misappropriation and that kind of thing is dealt with people who do not have a, in my opinion, have a arguably decision making that's not conveyed in the meaning. What religion of priests, if you don't ask me? I don't know what the religion is. It's they're Maori, so it's part of the Maori culture. Like Maori is the natives in the native inhabitants. So this person happens to be tied with the Maori culture. Yeah. The blessing was pretty beautiful. I kind of like, the language sounds very Asian Pacific Islander kind of thing. It sounds quite nice. It's very lovely. At least online, everyone gets so offended as soon as you mention doing anything about another culture or race. It's immediately labeled as racist or cultural appropriation. Yeah, misappropriation. I think cultural appropriation is something of an underrated use of words. There is a willingness to learn and a willingness to reach, versus a superficial act of relatedness. Oh, they're valid. Anyways, this is a good place to like kind of end the discussion and call it a day. But that is the sentiment. Learning another language is the utmost flattering thing, in my opinion. One of the utmost flattering things. If you were able to say something in Fujonese to my parents, right? It's like it's not misappropriation, for example. In fact, if you horribly butchered, but it was executed with the utmost genuine things, body language, human interaction, it supersedes language barriers, in my opinion. So, having well thought out and willing to defend the labels or the immediate reactions I think ultimately speaks far more volume than someone who is easily offended or someone who's offended at first. But the question is, do you fold immediately? Someone who's avid and passionate do not fold immediately. And in my opinion, even the internet, with the loud minority, I think the silent majority can palpably feel someone's earnest commitment to engaging in other culture. I firmly and hear me out, there's a little tact here. I am from a cultural background that I can never be considered a non-foreigner. So even then, there is harmony that can be achieved by engaging in one's culture. Earlier on, I was talking about this. I would argue that I am diaspora of a very prominent China, right? That exercise isolationism quite a lot. And even then, a foreigner exercising interest can bridge that appropriation fear. So I would say it's with great expression and able communication, right? It can supersede that. I think it's the loud minority that causes a representation that is echoed on the internet. And I still kind of have this pleasant and naive optimistic perspective that humans can genuinely see and continue to feel sentimentalism as opposed to being wrought with hyper knowledge, right? Yeah, so let's end it there. That's fantastic. I really love the candid conversation. I hope wherever you are it's not so late and you're having fun. By the way, happy holidays if you celebrate any of the nomination of holidays. It's almost the solar new year, right? And the lunar new year is coming by soon. So hopefully you're enjoying your holidays and maybe a break. A lot of times people have winter break of some sort from university and whatnot. Yeah, happy holidays. It's 4 a.m. Okay. And online, everyone. Okay. As long as you respect the culture when speaking or doing something within. Yeah, when you're putting in the effort, it's felt, in my opinion. And it's almost felt even more now than ever because most things are manufactured, right? If you sound like the next person, odds are you're probably working uphill. If you don't sound like the next person and you're willing to stand by it, it radiates. It's very radiating. Yes. So thank you for chatting, right? Thank you for chatting. Sorry this wasn't exactly Japanese filled, but it was a wonderful discussion about cross-cultural things, and language learning deals with that. So no concerns with my lesson. If you're not talking about culture while also language learning, I feel like eventually it'll become a grind and it'll become something pragmatic. And we already talked about how misappropriation is not without its sentimentalism, right? So with sentimentalism, it creates appropriation, like cultural appropriation. So we talk about culture all the time. I do this all the time, so feel free to tell me something weird or something interesting. So no obligations to come like every day or something like that. Every once in a blue moon, I would love to hear a story. Something super exciting that's really exciting in your life. It would be fantastic. Or, ooh, you can show me the tattoo. Ooh, I would love to see something and a story about your tattoo experience. That would be fantastic. Maybe like a year down the road, my Japanese might improve a little bit. By then, we might be engaging in something else, and we'll start Spanish. So if you're always free to regale me in your Spanish, we try, right? Okay. With that said, thanks for hanging out, folks. this is a wrap up of Unit 10, right? We're going into the last unit available in Chinese in the next 3 days. And then we're going to do a big review. So thanks again if you're going to watch this later. 谢谢. Yes, and またね. じゃあね, Aventurins Baker. I'm going to have to ask you about your name next time. I'll be getting the tattoo soon, so once it heals... Ooh, okay, soon. Bet. Alright, folks. It's been a pleasure. It's been a long day. I'll be back tomorrow, of course. Back with Japanese and Chinese again. We're gonna have to get ready for our review soon. Until then, happy holidays, folks. Merry Christmas. Happy holiday. Happy holidays. 新年快乐 right? 祝你新年快乐. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye bye.